Welcome to Monk's Temple. Let us begin in the only place we ever truly can. Right here. Right now. With this single breath. Feel it moving into your body, cool and fresh. Feel it leaving, warm and releasing. This breath has been with you your entire life, every moment, every joy, every sorrow. It has never abandoned you. It is always here, waiting to remind you that you are alive, that you are present, that you are okay in this very moment, even if only for the duration of this one breath. If you are listening to this, it may be because something inside you is hurting. Perhaps it is a sharp pain, recent and raw. Perhaps it is a dull ache that has lived with you so long you cannot remember what it felt like before it arrived. Perhaps it is not pain at all, but numbness, a gray fog that mutes everything, the good and the bad, leaving you feeling disconnected from yourself and from the world. You might call it stress, anxiety, depression, or you might have no name for it at all. You just know that something feels heavy, and you are tired of carrying it alone. Here is the first truth I want to offer you, and I want you to let it sink in slowly, like warm water filling a cold bath. You are not alone in this. I know that when you are in the middle of suffering, statements like this can feel hollow, even irritating. Of course, intellectually, you know millions of people struggle. But emotionally, suffering feels exquisitely, painfully personal. It feels like you are the only one standing in the rain while everyone else has found shelter. This feeling of isolation is not a weakness in you. It is actually a symptom of the suffering itself. Depression and anxiety are master illusionists. Their primary trick is to convince you that your experience is unique, that no one could possibly understand, that you are fundamentally separate and alone. But let us look at this from a different perspective, one offered by the Buddha over 2,000 years ago, yet confirmed by modern psychology today. The Buddha did not begin his teaching with a promise of instant happiness. He began with something far more radical and, ultimately, far more compassionate. He began with the truth of dukkha. This ancient Pali word is often translated as suffering, but that translation is incomplete. Dukkha refers to a fundamental unsatisfactoriness, a subtle dis-ease that runs through all of conditioned existence. It is the disappointment when pleasure fades. It is the anxiety of holding on to what we love, knowing we might lose it. It is the background hum of discontent that makes us constantly reach for something else, something more, something different. When the Buddha said there is suffering, he was not making a pessimistic statement about life. He was making a diagnostic statement, like a doctor identifying a disease. He was saying, look closely at your experience. What do you see? Birth brings with it the inevitability of aging and death. Meeting brings with it the inevitability of parting. Success brings with it the fear of failure. Pleasure brings with it the pain of its absence. This is not a curse. This is the nature of being alive in a body, in a world of constant change. Now, here is why this matters to you, right now, in your pain. If suffering is a universal human experience, then your suffering is not a sign that you are broken or defective. It is a sign that you are fully, completely human. The specific content of your suffering is unique to you, yes. The loss you experienced, the rejection you felt, the chemical imbalance in your brain, the childhood wound that still aches. That is your personal story. But the fact of suffering, the experience of it, is something you share with every single person who has ever lived. The Buddha under his Bodhi tree, the CEO in her corner office, the child in a refugee camp, the elderly man in a nursing home, the teenager scrolling through social media feeling left out. All of them, all of us, no dukkha. When you can begin to see your pain not as a personal failure but as a shared human inheritance, something shifts. The walls of isolation begin to crack. You are no longer the only one in the storm. You are one of countless souls who have weathered storms before you. This does not erase the pain, but it transforms the context. It places your individual struggle within a vast, ancient, and compassionate framework of shared experience. Think about a river. If you are a single drop of water in that river, and you get separated from the flow, splashed onto a hot rock, you will quickly evaporate. You will feel your existence ending, alone and terrified. But if you realize you are not just a drop, you are the entire river, flowing endlessly toward the ocean, then landing on a rock is just a temporary detour. You will eventually find your way back to the current, or you will evaporate and become rain and return to the river that way. You are not just the drop. You are the whole river. Your suffering is not just your suffering. It is part of the great flow of human experience. Thank you. Let us continue together. Now that we have established this foundation, that your suffering connects you to rather than isolates you from humanity, we must address the practical question. What do we actually do when the storm is raging? When the thoughts are relentless and the feelings are overwhelming? The Buddha provided a map, a clear and practical path out of suffering. It is not a path of escape, not a denial of pain, but a path of radical transformation in how we relate to pain. And the heart of this path is a practice called mindfulness, or in Pali, sati. Mindfulness is a word that gets thrown around a lot these days. It has been packaged, sold, simplified, and sometimes distorted. But at its core, in the Buddhist understanding, mindfulness is something profoundly simple and profoundly challenging. It is the ability to pay attention to the present moment, intentionally and without judgment. That is all. But within that simple definition lies the key to unlocking freedom from the prison of depressive and anxious thoughts. To understand why mindfulness is so powerful, we must first understand the problem. The problem is not that we have thoughts. The mind is a thought-generating organ. It produces thoughts the way the stomach produces digestive juices and the heart produces beats. It is what minds do. The problem is that we believe our thoughts. We become fused with them. A thought arises, and we immediately treat it as truth. The thought says, "You are worthless," and we feel worthless. The thought says, "Nothing will ever get better," and we sink into hopelessness. The thought says, "Everyone is judging you," and our body floods with anxiety. We do not see the thought as a thought. We see it as reality. And because we see it as reality, we react. We fight it, which creates more thoughts about fighting. We try to suppress it, which gives it more energy. We act on it, which creates consequences in our lives. We are living inside the movie of our minds, completely convinced it is a documentary. Modern psychology has a name for this. It is called cognitive fusion. It is the state of being so tangled up in your thoughts that you cannot distinguish the thinker from the thinking. You are the thought. And when you are the thought, you have no freedom, no space, no choice. You are simply reacting, driven by the content of your own mind, like a leaf blown by the wind. The Buddhist practice of mindfulness offers an alternative. It is called cognitive diffusion in psychology, but the Buddha called it simply seeing clearly. It is the practice of stepping back from your thoughts, creating a tiny gap of awareness between the thought arising and your identification with it. It is realizing, in a direct and experiential way, that you are not your thoughts. You are the one who is aware of your thoughts. Imagine you are sitting in a movie theater. The lights dim. The film begins. It is a gripping drama, full of tension and emotion. For a while, you are lost in it. You forget you are in a theater. You forget you are watching a projection of light on a screen. You are inside the story. Your heart races when the hero is in danger. You cry when there is a loss. This is cognitive fusion. You are fused with the movie. But then, someone in the row behind you drops their popcorn, and for a second, you are jolted out of the story. You remember, oh yes, I am in a theater. This is just a movie. The movie continues. The hero is still in danger. But now, you are watching it differently. You are still engaged, but there is a part of you that knows it is not real. The emotions are still there, but they are not overwhelming. You have perspective. You have space. This is mindfulness. You are no longer fused with the movie. You are watching the movie. Your thoughts are that movie. They play constantly, scene after scene, some beautiful, some terrifying, some boring. For most of your life, you have been sitting in the front row, completely absorbed, believing every frame. Mindfulness is simply scooting your chair back a few rows. It is remembering, again and again, that this is just a movie. The thought, I am a failure, is a scene in the movie. It is not the truth of who you are. The feeling of overwhelming sadness is a scene in the movie. It is not the totality of your being. You are the screen upon which the movie is projected. The screen is not disturbed by the drama playing upon it. It remains steady, unchanged, holding the images without becoming them. This realization, that you are the screen and not the movie, is the beginning of genuine healing. It does not make the difficult scenes disappear. The sad scenes will still play. The anxious scenes will still arrive. But you are no longer a victim of them. You are the vast, open space in which they arise and pass away. And because you are that space, you have the capacity to choose how to respond, rather than being forced to react. Thank you. Let us continue together. Now that we have established this foundation, that your suffering connects you to rather than isolates you from humanity, we must address the practical question. What do we actually do when the storm is raging? When the thoughts are relentless and the feelings are overwhelming? The Buddha provided a map, a clear and practical path out of suffering. It is not a path of escape, not a denial of pain, but a path of radical transformation in how we relate to pain. And the heart of this path is a practice called mindfulness, or in Pali, sati. Mindfulness is a word that gets thrown around a lot these days. It has been packaged, sold, simplified, and sometimes distorted. But at its core, in the Buddhist understanding, mindfulness is something profoundly simple and profoundly challenging. It is the ability to pay attention to the present moment, intentionally and without judgment. That is all. But within that simple definition lies the key to unlocking freedom from the prison of depressive and anxious thoughts. To understand why mindfulness is so powerful, we must first understand the problem. The problem is not that we have thoughts. The mind is a thought-generating organ. It produces thoughts the way the stomach produces digestive juices and the heart produces beats. It is what minds do. The problem is that we believe our thoughts. We become fused with them. A thought arises, and we immediately treat it as truth. The thought says, "You are worthless," and we feel worthless. The thought says, "Nothing will ever get better," and we sink into hopelessness. The thought says, "Everyone is judging you," and our body floods with anxiety. We do not see the thought as a thought. We see it as reality. And because we see it as reality, we react. We fight it, which creates more thoughts about fighting. We try to suppress it, which gives it more energy. We act on it, which creates consequences in our lives. We are living inside the movie of our minds, completely convinced it is a documentary. Modern psychology has a name for this. It is called cognitive fusion. It is the state of being so tangled up in your thoughts that you cannot distinguish the thinker from the thinking. You are the thought. And when you are the thought, you have no freedom, no space, no choice. You are simply reacting, driven by the content of your own mind, like a leaf blown by the wind. The Buddhist practice of mindfulness offers an alternative. It is called cognitive diffusion in psychology, but the Buddha called it simply seeing clearly. It is the practice of stepping back from your thoughts, creating a tiny gap of awareness between the thought arising and your identification with it. It is realizing, in a direct and experiential way, that you are not your thoughts. You are the one who is aware of your thoughts. Imagine you are sitting in a movie theater. The lights dim. The film begins. It is a gripping drama, full of tension and emotion. For a while, you are lost in it. You forget you are in a theater. You forget you are watching a projection of light on a screen. You are inside the story. Your heart races when the hero is in danger. You cry when there is a loss. This is cognitive fusion. You are fused with the movie. But then, someone in the row behind you drops their popcorn, and for a second, you are jolted out of the story. You remember, "Oh yes, I am in a theater. This is just a movie." The movie continues. The hero is still in danger. But now, you are watching it differently. You are still engaged, but there is a part of you that knows it is not real. The emotions are still there, but they are not overwhelming. You have perspective. You have space. This is mindfulness. You are no longer fused with the movie. You are watching the movie. Your thoughts are that movie. They play constantly, scene after scene, some beautiful, some terrifying, some boring. For most of your life, you have been sitting in the front row, completely absorbed, believing every frame. Mindfulness is simply scooting your chair back a few rows. It is remembering, again and again, that this is just a movie. The thought, "I am a failure," is a scene in the movie. It is not the truth of who you are. The feeling of overwhelming sadness is a scene in the movie. It is not the totality of your being. You are the screen upon which the movie is projected. The screen is not disturbed by the drama playing upon it. It remains steady, unchanged, holding the images without becoming them. This realization, that you are the screen and not the movie, is the beginning of genuine healing. It does not make the difficult scenes disappear. The sad scenes will still play. The anxious scenes will still arrive. But you are no longer a victim of them. You are the vast, open space in which they arise and pass away. And because you are that space, you have the capacity to choose how to respond, rather than being forced to react. Let us go deeper into this practice of watching thoughts, because this is where the real work happens. This is not an intellectual exercise. It is not about understanding the concept and moving on. It is a moment by moment, day by day, year by year practice of coming back, again and again, to the simple act of noticing. Here is a way to begin. Find a comfortable position, either sitting or lying down. If you are in a place where you cannot close your eyes, just soften your gaze. Bring your attention to your breath for a few moments, just to settle. And then, gently, turn your attention to your mind. Ask yourself a question with genuine curiosity, as if you are a scientist observing a phenomenon for the first time. The question is simply this: what is my next thought going to be? Do not try to manufacture a thought. Just wait. Watch. See if you can catch the thought as it arises. You might notice a tiny gap, a moment of stillness, and then a thought appears. Perhaps it is a word, perhaps an image, perhaps a feeling. Whatever it is, just notice it. Do not judge it. Do not follow it. Do not try to push it away. Just see it, like you would see a cloud passing in the sky. And then, let it go. And wait for the next one. This simple exercise reveals something profound. It shows you that you are not the thinker of your thoughts. Thoughts arise on their own, from conditions you did not consciously create. You did not decide to have that thought. It just appeared. And if you did not create it, if you are not the author of it, then who are you in relation to it? You are the one who notices it. You are awareness itself. When a depressive thought arises, like, I am hopeless, the old habit is to grab it, believe it, and become it. The new practice, the mindful practice, is to see it differently. You can say to yourself, silently, there is the, I am hopeless thought. You are not saying the thought is true or false. You are not arguing with it. You are simply noting its presence. You are labeling it as a mental event. And in that simple act of labeling, you create distance. The thought is no longer you. It is just a thought passing through the vast space of your awareness. Think of it like this. Imagine you are sitting by the side of a busy highway. Cars and trucks and motorcycles zoom past. Some are loud, some are quiet. Some are colorful, some are dull. You sit there, watching them go by. You do not run out into the road and try to stop the ones you do not like. You do not try to jump into the cars and go for a ride. You just sit, watching, noticing, letting them pass. Your thoughts are those vehicles. Some are fast, some are slow. Some are filled with anger, some with sadness, some with fear. Your job is not to manage the traffic. Your job is to stay on the side of the road, watching, until the traffic naturally thins out and the road becomes quiet again. But here is what usually happens. A big, scary truck of a thought comes barreling down the highway of your mind. It is a thought about a past failure, a future catastrophe, a current worry. And instead of staying on the side of the road, you panic. You run out into the highway and try to stop the truck with your bare hands. You wrestle with it. You scream at it. You try to push it back. And of course, you cannot stop a truck. It runs you over. You get hurt. And the truck keeps going, only to be followed by another, and another. This is what fighting your thoughts feels like. It is exhausting, futile, and painful. Mindfulness teaches you to stay on the side of the road. It teaches you to trust that the truck will pass. It might be loud. It might shake the ground. It might kick up dust that gets in your eyes. But if you just let it pass, it will eventually disappear down the highway. And in its absence, there will be a moment of peace, a gap in the traffic, a chance to breathe. This is not about becoming thoughtless. Thoughts will always come. The mind is a busy highway, especially when we are suffering. But you can learn to sit on the side. You can learn to watch without being run over. And over time, as you practice, you will find that the traffic becomes less overwhelming. You will find that you are less reactive, less fearful, less identified with every passing vehicle. You will find that the highway can be busy, but you can still be at peace. Let me share a story with you about a woman named Sarah. Sarah was a graphic designer, creative and successful, but she carried a weight that no one could see. From the outside, she had everything. A loving partner, a cozy apartment in the city, a career that allowed her to express herself. But inside, Sarah was haunted by a single moment from her past. 10 years earlier, when she was in college, she had betrayed a close friend. It was a complicated situation involving a romantic interest, but the details do not matter. What matters is that Sarah had done something she was deeply ashamed of. She had never apologized. The friendship ended, and she told herself it was for the best. She moved on, or so she thought. But the mind does not forget. It stores everything. And for 10 years, that memory would surface at unexpected moments. While she was brushing her teeth. While she was trying to fall asleep. While she was laughing with friends. Suddenly, the image would appear. Her friend's hurt face. The words that were said. The cold silence that followed. And with the image came a wave of shame so intense it felt like burning. Sarah would then start a mental war. She would argue with herself. That was 10 years ago. You were young. You made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. Get over it. But the arguing did not work. The shame always came back, sometimes stronger than before. One evening, Sarah was at a meditation class. She had started going because she heard it helped with stress, but she had not told the teacher about her specific struggle. The teacher was guiding the group through a practice of working with difficult emotions. She said something that stopped Sarah cold. The teacher said, "When a painful memory arises, do not try to push it away. Do not try to analyze it or fix it. Instead, just breathe and say to yourself, 'I see you, old pain. I know you are here. You do not have to leave. You can stay as long as you need. I am just going to breathe with you.'" Sarah almost laughed. Why would she invite the pain to stay? She had been trying to get rid of it for 10 years. But something in the teacher's voice, something gentle and compassionate, made her curious. That night, lying in bed, the memory came again. The shame rose up like a wave. But instead of fighting it, instead of starting the usual argument, Sarah took a breath. And she whispered silently, "I see you, old pain. I know you are here. You can stay if you need to. I am just going to breathe with you." And something shifted. The shame did not disappear, but it softened. It became less solid. It became something she was holding, rather than something that was holding her. She realized that for 10 years, she had been fighting a ghost. The actual event was over. It was done. But her fighting of the memory kept it alive, kept it fresh, kept it painful. When she stopped fighting, the memory could finally begin to age, to fade, to lose its power. Sarah did this practice many times over the following weeks and months. The memory still comes sometimes, but now it comes as a distant echo, not a fresh wound. And sometimes, when it comes, she even feels gratitude. That old pain taught her something. It taught her about the cost of disconnection. It taught her about the importance of honesty. It taught her that you cannot outrun your past, but you can learn to sit with it peacefully. The Buddha taught that all things arise and pass away. Thoughts arise and pass away. Feelings arise and pass away. Memories arise and pass away. Even shame arises and passes away. The only thing that does not pass away is the awareness that notices it all. That awareness is your true home. It is always there, always steady, always at peace, even when the most painful memories are passing through. Now I want to introduce another metaphor that might help you understand this relationship between your thoughts and your awareness. Imagine you are standing in an empty room. The room has one window, and through that window, you can see the sky. All day long, you stand at that window and watch. In the morning, you see soft pink clouds. In the afternoon, dark storm clouds roll in, bringing thunder and lightning. In the evening, the sky clears and the first stars appear. You watch all of this. The clouds come. The clouds go. The storms rage. The storms pass. The stars appear. The stars fade with the dawn. Through all of this, you remain at the window. You are not the clouds. You are not the storm. You are not the stars. You are the one watching. Your mind is that sky. Your thoughts and feelings are the weather. And you are the one at the window. Depression is when the storm clouds are so thick and dark that you forget you are at the window. You forget there is a watcher. You think you are the storm. You think you are the darkness. But you are not. You are the watcher. And the watcher is never touched by the storm. The watcher just watches. This is not just poetry. This is the deepest truth of your being. Neuroscience is now discovering what contemplatives have known for millennia. The brain has different networks for thinking and for observing. The default mode network is where our rumination happens, where we plan and worry and rehearse and regret. This network is hyperactive in depression and anxiety. But there is another network, the experiential network, that becomes active when we are simply present, simply observing, without getting caught up in mental time travel. When you practice mindfulness, you are literally strengthening the neural pathways of observation and weakening the pathways of rumination. You are rewiring your brain for peace. So when Sarah learned to say, "I see you, old pain," she was not being poetic. She was activating a different part of her brain. She was shifting from the network of rumination to the network of observation. She was moving from being the storm to being the watcher at the window. And in that shift, freedom became possible. This is the practice. This is the path. It is not about getting rid of difficult thoughts and feelings. It is about changing your relationship to them. It is about learning to be the sky, not the weather. It is about learning to be the screen, not the movie. It is about learning to be the one at the window, watching the clouds pass, knowing that no cloud, no matter how dark, can ever touch the watcher. Let me tell you about a man named Marcus. Marcus was a firefighter. For 20 years, he had run into burning buildings while everyone else ran out. He had pulled people from cars, from collapsed structures, from situations that would give most of us nightmares for years. Marcus was good at his job. He was brave, quick, and calm under pressure. His colleagues respected him. His family was proud of him. But Marcus carried something inside that no one could see. It was not the big events that broke him. It was the small one. One ordinary Tuesday, he responded to a call about a house fire. It was a small fire, contained to the kitchen. No one was home. The danger was minimal. But when Marcus entered the house, he saw something that would haunt him. On the kitchen table, there was a child's drawing. It was a crayon drawing of a family, stick figures holding hands under a bright yellow sun. The drawing was partially burned, the edges black and curled. Marcus stood there for a moment, staring at that half-burned drawing, and something cracked inside him. He finished the job. He went home. He ate dinner with his family. He watched television. He went to bed. But he could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that drawing. He thought about the child who made it. He thought about how that child's safe world, represented by that drawing, could have been destroyed if the fire had been worse. He thought about all the losses he had witnessed over 20 years. The faces. The screams. The moments of grief. They all came flooding back, not as memories, but as fresh experiences. In the weeks that followed, Marcus changed. He became irritable. He stopped laughing. He stopped sleeping. He started drinking. He was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder and depression. He went to a therapist. He tried medication. These things helped at the edges, but the core of his suffering remained. He was haunted by the cumulative weight of 2 decades of witnessing pain. One day, his therapist suggested something unconventional. She suggested he go to a meditation retreat. Marcus laughed. He was a firefighter, not a monk. Sitting still and meditating was the last thing he wanted to do. He wanted to run, to fight, to do something. But he was desperate, so he agreed. The retreat was silent. For 10 days, no talking, no phones, no books, no writing. Just sitting and walking, walking and sitting. The first few days were agony. Marcus's mind was a chaos of images and emotions. Fires. Accidents. The burned drawing. The faces of people he could not save. He wanted to leave. He wanted to scream. But the teacher kept saying the same thing over and over. Just sit. Just breathe. Just watch. Do not try to fix anything. Just watch. On the 5th day, something shifted. Marcus was sitting, watching his breath, when a memory arose. It was a particularly bad memory, a car accident with children involved. The grief and horror rushed through him. But this time, instead of getting swept away, instead of fighting it, Marcus just watched. He watched the feeling arise. He watched it peak. He watched it linger. And then, he watched it begin to fade. It did not disappear completely, but it lost its solidity. It became less like a solid rock and more like a cloud passing through the vast sky of his awareness. And in that moment, Marcus understood something he had never understood before. He was not his memories. He was not his grief. He was not his trauma. He was the one watching it all. The memories were still there. The grief was still there. But they no longer defined him. They were visitors passing through, not permanent residents. Marcus finished the retreat. He went back to work, but he was different. The memories still came, but he no longer fought them. He watched them arise, and he watched them pass. He started sitting for 30 minutes every morning, just watching his breath, just watching his mind. He still had difficult days. He still felt sadness. But he was no longer drowning. He had found the shore. The Buddha taught that the mind is like a wild elephant. It crashes through the jungle, trampling everything in its path, driven by instinct and reaction. But the elephant can be tamed. Not by beating it, not by chaining it, but by patiently, gently, consistently training it. The rope is mindfulness. The stake is the present moment. Every time you bring your attention back to your breath, back to your body, back to the present, you are taming the elephant. You are training your mind to be still. And over time, the wild elephant becomes a gentle companion, still powerful, but no longer destructive. Now I want to share with you a different way of understanding this practice, a way that might help when the thoughts are particularly loud and the feelings are particularly heavy. Think about a lake. Imagine a mountain lake, high and clear, surrounded by pine trees. On a calm day, the surface of this lake is like glass. It reflects the mountains perfectly, the trees perfectly, the sky perfectly. You can see all the way to the bottom, to the smooth stones and the fish swimming slowly. This is the mind when it is peaceful. Thoughts arise rarely, and they pass without leaving a ripple. But most of the time, our minds are not like that. Most of the time, the wind is blowing. The surface of the lake is covered with waves and ripples. You cannot see the reflection. You cannot see the bottom. The water is choppy and opaque. This is the mind under stress, under depression, under anxiety. Thoughts are coming fast and furious, each one creating more disturbance. The wind of our lives, our responsibilities, our traumas, our worries, keeps blowing, keeps churning the surface. Now, here is the important part. When the lake is choppy, what do? Do you jump into the lake and try to smooth the waves with your hands? Of course not. That would only make more waves. Do you get angry at the wind? That does nothing. The wind does not care about your anger. The only thing you can do is wait. You can sit on the shore and wait for the wind to stop. And eventually, it always does. The wind always stops. The surface always becomes calm again. Not because you fought it, but because you waited. This is what mindfulness practice offers you. A place on the shore. A way of sitting with the choppy water, knowing that the wind will eventually stop, knowing that the calm is always there, underneath the surface, waiting to reappear. You cannot make the wind stop by fighting it. You cannot make your thoughts stop by fighting them. But you can learn to sit on the shore. You can learn to trust that the storm will pass. And in that trust, there is peace, even in the middle of the storm. Let me tell you about a woman named Priya. Priya was a lawyer, sharp and ambitious. She had worked her entire life to build a successful career. She had sacrificed relationships, hobbies, even her health, to climb the ladder. And she made it. She became a partner at her firm. She had the corner office, the six-figure salary, the respect of her peers. But the week she made partner, she collapsed. Not physically, but mentally. She woke up one morning and could not get out of bed. The weight of everything she had been carrying, years of stress, years of suppression, years of ignoring her own needs, came crashing down on her all at once. Priya was diagnosed with major depressive disorder. She could not work. She could barely function. She spent weeks in a fog, unable to eat, unable to sleep, unable to find any meaning in anything. The career she had sacrificed everything for now seemed hollow and pointless. The ambitions that had driven her now seemed like a cruel joke. She felt like she had climbed to the top of a mountain only to find that the mountain was made of sand, and it was crumbling beneath her. Her therapist suggested meditation. Priya was skeptical. She was a doer, not a sitter. But she had no energy to do anything else, so she tried it. She downloaded an app and started with 5 minutes a day. It was excruciating. Her mind was a chaos of regrets and fears and self-criticisms. She would sit for 5 minutes and feel like she had been in a war. But she kept going. 5 minutes became 10. 10 became 15. Slowly, imperceptibly, something began to shift. One day, she was sitting, watching her breath, when a thought arose. It was the usual thought, the one that had been tormenting her for months. You wasted your life. You sacrificed everything for nothing. You are a failure. But this time, instead of getting pulled into the thought, instead of believing it and spiraling into despair, Priya saw something else. She saw that the thought was just a thought. It was a collection of words, a pattern of neural firing, a conditioned response. It was not the truth. It was just an old tape playing. And in that moment, Priya laughed. Not a happy laugh, but a laugh of recognition. She realized that she had been taking these thoughts seriously for months, years, maybe her whole life. She had been believing the stories her mind told her, without ever questioning them. And now, for the first time, she saw through them. They were just thoughts. They had no power except the power she gave them by believing them. Priya did not suddenly become happy. Her depression did not vanish. But something fundamental had changed. She had discovered a space inside herself that the depression could not touch. A space of pure awareness that was always there, always calm, always free. The thoughts still came. The feelings still came. But she no longer identified with them completely. She was the sky, not the weather. She was the lake, not the waves. And that made all the difference. The Buddha called this awakening. Not a final destination, but an ongoing realization. A remembering, again and again, of who you really are. You are not your thoughts. You are not your feelings. You are not your depression. You are not your anxiety. You are the awareness in which all of these things arise and pass away. And that awareness is already free. It has always been free. You have just forgotten. Let me share with you a story about a young man named Carlos. Carlos was an artist, a painter, and his art was everything to him. He poured his heart onto canvases, creating vibrant, emotional works that moved everyone who saw them. He had his first gallery show at 25, and it was a success. Critics praised him. Collectors bought his work. Carlos felt like he was living his dream. Then came the block. It started slowly. A few days when the ideas would not come. Then weeks. Then months. Carlos would stand in front of a blank canvas, brush in hand, and feel absolutely nothing. No inspiration. No emotion. Just emptiness. The more he tried to force himself to paint, the emptier he felt. He started to believe something terrible. He started to believe that he had used up all his talent. That the well had run dry. That he was a fraud who had fooled everyone. Depression settled over Carlos like a heavy fog. He stopped going to his studio. He stopped answering calls from galleries. He stopped seeing friends. He spent most of his time in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying his perceived failures over and over. The thoughts were relentless. You had one good idea and now it's gone. You are nothing without your art. You are nothing. One day, his younger sister came to visit. She was worried about him. She sat on the edge of his bed and said, "Carlos, I don't care if you ever paint again. I don't love you because you're an artist. I love you because you're my brother. You are not your paintings." Those words hit Carlos like a bolt of lightning. You are not your paintings. He had spent his whole life defining himself by his art. His identity, his worth, his reason for being, all wrapped up in what he produced. And when he could not produce, he felt like he ceased to exist. His sister's words opened a door. Carlos started therapy. He started practicing mindfulness. He learned to sit with the emptiness, to watch it without judgment, to stop fighting it. And slowly, he began to see that the emptiness was not a void. It was space. Space for something new to grow. He also began to see that his thoughts about being a fraud were just thoughts. They were not facts. They were stories his mind told him, stories he had believed without question. Months passed. Carlos still was not painting. But he was no longer suffering about not painting. He was learning to simply be. He took walks. He cooked meals. He sat in parks and watched children play. He discovered that life was full of color and beauty, even when he was not the one creating it. He discovered that he could be happy just being Carlos, not Carlos the artist. Then one day, about a year after his sister's visit, Carlos was walking through a park. He saw a child drawing with chalk on the sidewalk. A simple drawing of a sun and a house. The child was so absorbed, so present, so joyful. And something stirred in Carlos. He went home. He walked into his studio, still dusty, still full of blank canvases. He picked up a brush. He mixed some paint. And he painted. Not because he had to. Not because his identity depended on it. But because painting was a joy, an expression of aliveness, not a validation of worth. The block was gone. Not because he fought it, but because he had stopped identifying with it. Carlos paints again now. His work is different, lighter, more free. But more importantly, Carlos is different. He knows now that he is not his art. He is not his success. He is not his failure. He is the awareness that paints, the awareness that walks in the park, the awareness that loves his sister. And that awareness cannot be blocked. It cannot be depleted. It is always there, always whole, always enough. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering is attachment. Attachment to things, to people, to ideas, to identities. Carlos was attached to being an artist. When that identity was threatened, he suffered. Mindfulness helped him see the attachment, see that he was more than any identity, more than any role. And in that seeing, he was freed. What are you attached to? What identity are you clinging to? The successful one? The struggling one? The victim? The hero? The depressed one? All of these are just roles you are playing. They are not who you are. Beneath all the roles, beneath all the thoughts, beneath all the feelings, there is simply awareness. Simply presence. Simply you. And that you is already whole, already complete, already free. You do not need to become anything. You do not need to achieve anything. You just need to remember what you have always been. As we come toward the close of our time together, I want to offer you one more story. This one is about a woman named Helen. Helen was 73 years old when she came to a meditation center, hoping to learn how to deal with the grief of losing her husband of 48 years. They had met in college, married young, built a life together. They raised children, welcomed grandchildren, traveled the world. And then one day, Thomas was gone. A heart attack, sudden and final. Helen was lost. The house was empty. The bed was too big. The silence was unbearable. Helen had never meditated before. She thought it was something for young people, for hippies, not for a grandmother from Ohio. But her daughter suggested it, and Helen was willing to try anything to escape the weight of her grief. She came to the center and was assigned a teacher, a young monk named Banti. Helen was skeptical. What could this young man, probably not even 30, possibly teach her about loss? The first day, Banti did not teach her anything. He just asked her to sit and watch her breath. Helen sat. Her mind was a storm of memories, of regrets, of longing for Thomas. She could not focus for even a few seconds. She felt like a failure. At the end of the day, she told Banti, "This is useless. I cannot do it. My mind is too old, too set in its ways." Banti smiled gently and said, "Helen, your mind is not too old. It is just untrained. And an untrained mind is like a wild horse. It does not respond to force. It responds to patience and kindness. Tomorrow, we try again." The next day, Helen tried again. And the next. And the next. Slowly, over the course of a week, something shifted. She began to notice that the grief was not a single solid thing. It came in waves. There would be a memory of Thomas, and the wave would rise, and she would cry. But then, after a while, the wave would recede. And in the space between waves, there was a kind of peace. A quiet. A stillness. By the end of the 10-day retreat, Helen understood something profound. The grief was not going away. It would probably always be there, in some form. But she did not have to drown in it. She could learn to surf the waves. She could learn to sit on the shore and watch them come and go. She could learn to be the vast ocean that holds all the waves, not just one wave being tossed about. On the last day, Helen thanked Banti. She said, "I came here hoping you would teach me how to stop missing Thomas. Instead, you taught me how to miss him without disappearing. You taught me that missing him is a form of love, and love does not have to be suffering. Love can just be love." Banti nodded and said, "You learned what the Buddha taught. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. The pain of losing Thomas will always be there. But the suffering, the fighting, the resisting, that you can let go. And in letting go, you find peace." Helen went home. She still grieves. She still misses Thomas every single day. But she also sits every morning, watching her breath, watching the waves of grief come and go. And in that sitting, she finds a connection to Thomas that is deeper than presence. She finds a connection to all beings who have ever loved and lost. She finds a connection to herself, to the vast awareness that was there before Thomas, that was there during Thomas, and that will be there after Thomas. She finds home. This is what the practice offers you. Not an escape from pain, but a transformation of it. Not a removal of the waves, but a way to surf them. Not an end to grief, but an end to the suffering that comes from fighting grief. You can learn to sit on the shore of your own awareness and watch the weather of your mind. The storms will come. The waves will rise. But you do not have to be swept away. You can stay on the shore, steady, grounded, at peace. The Buddha called this the end of suffering. Not the end of pain, but the end of the extra layer of suffering we add by resisting, by fighting, by clinging. When you stop fighting your thoughts, they lose their power. When you stop resisting your feelings, they flow through you and dissolve. When you stop clinging to your identity, you discover who you really are. Infinite. Aware. Free. So as you go from this place, from this moment, carry this practice with you. When a depressive thought arises, do not fight it. Just notice it. Say to yourself, "Ah, there is a sad thought." When anxiety grips you, do not panic. Just notice it. Say, "Ah, there is a fearful feeling." When grief overwhelms you, do not run. Just notice it. Say, "Ah, there is grief visiting today." You are not the thought. You are not the feeling. You are not the grief. You are the one noticing. You are the awareness itself. And that awareness is untouched, unbroken, unconditionally at peace. You are more than you think you are. You are vaster than your thoughts. You are deeper than your feelings. You are older than your memories. You are the sky, not the weather. You are the ocean, not the wave. You are the shore, not the storm. And you have always been this. You have just forgotten. Now you are remembering. Thank you for spending this time with me at Monk's Temple. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free. May you take this practice into your life and discover for yourself the peace that has always been waiting for you. It was never outside you. It was always within. And now you know the way home.